Hello, and welcome to the Virtual Eclipse Community Meetup. We're on to day 4 of the Eclipse Oxygen webinar series, and I'm your host, Kat Hirsch. The 12th annual simultaneous release, Eclipse Oxygen, will ship tomorrow on June 28, 2017, and is packed with new features like the ones we will be discussing today. Please visit eclipse.org/oxygen for more information. To become a member of the Virtual Eclipse Community Meetup, you can subscribe at the end of the video or follow the link in the description below. Throughout today's presentation, you are invited to submit questions using the chat box on the right-hand side of the YouTube Live event. We will reserve 5 minutes at the end of the presentation to go through those questions with our presenter. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce to you today's presenter, Lakshmi Shanmugam, who will be taking us through a presentation on what's new in the Eclipse platform. All right, over to you.
Thank you, Kat, for the introduction. So I will share my screen. Can you just confirm if you can see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Eclipse Oxygen releases tomorrow, as Kat mentioned, and I'm really excited to present what's new in the Eclipse platform in the Oxygen release. So I'm going to cover what's new content, component-wise. So first we will see what's new in platform, then in JDT, then let's move to debug, and then PDE. So first let's start with platform. One of the highlights of the Eclipse Oxygen release is the generic editor. The generic editor is an easily extensible text editor. The Eclipse Oxygen release provides an easily extensible generic text editor, and this generic text editor framework makes it easy to provide text editor support for new languages and content type. And using the generic text editor framework, a new editor can be created by extending the generic editor and contributing specific functionality such as syntax highlighting, content assist support, hover support, and there are specific extension points which are provided for each of these features, so the editor can consume these features from multiple sources. Eclipse PDE provides a new plugin project template to create the generic text editor. So let's open it here. So here you can see that we have a template to create the generic editor for extending the generic editor. And when you open the extensions tab, you can see the extension points provided to extend the generic editor. So here this is for this is for the syntax coloring, this is for hover support, and this is for content assist support. The generic editor has been adopted by components in Eclipse such as Theme and PDE. So let's see some examples. For example, an extension has been provided to view the div files and patch files. So the syntax coloring has been provided for the .div and .patch files. And an extension has been provided in PDE to provide syntax coloring for .target files and also provide content assist support for attribute names, for values, for names of for installable units from repositories, and also versions of installable units. Several other Eclipse projects have also adopted the generic editor. For example, we have the language server protocol for Eclipse, TextMate for Eclipse, which have adopted the generic editor. And there is a webinar which is happening tomorrow on generic editor and language server protocol. So you can join it to learn more. So let's move on to the other editor features. So in Eclipse Oxygen, the image files by default will open in the Eclipse internal browser. So the Eclipse internal browser has been set as the default editor for image files such as PNG, BMP, JPEG, icon files, and GIF files. Okay, and the editor selection dialog has an option to associate a particular editor with files with all files with a particular extension. For example, if I want to associate the editor text edit with all HTML files, I can use this option and select. So you can see that all the .html files are now associated with text edit here. Let's move to the compare editor. So I open the Eclipse compare editor. By default, Eclipse always shows the, okay, let me show you the default behavior. By default, Eclipse always shows the new or the local content in the left view and the old or the remote content in the right view. If you prefer to switch the views, there is a button in the toolbar to swap the left and right views. And there is also a preference here to change this. Here you can swap the left and right, and you can also view it in the preview. Okay, and the context menu to show the annotations has been renamed to show revision information. And this change is available in both CVS and in the latest versions of eGet. The control, the quick switch editor, the command, the shortcut for that is Command E on Mac, and it will be Control E. On other platforms, this command has been improved and it shows all the open editors. It also includes a filter wherein you can, if you wish to see only the Java files, you can use the wildcard character to filter out all the other files. You can use Control E to cycle through the list. Okay, so now we are done with the editor improvements. Let's move to quick access. There are several improvements in the quick access search. So first, you can see that all the items in the quick access have an icon associated or an image associated with them. And in case where there is no icon associated with a particular item, the default image, which is the blue circle, is shown. The quick access search allows improved string matching. For example, I can use partial strings. If I want to clone a repo, I can say clone repo, where I can just use a partial string to search for a particular command or a view or a perspective. For example, if I want to open a new project, I can say new Java. Instead of saying new Java project, I can say new project. It will actually match with strings, with white space characters, or even words within the parenthesis. Another improvement in the quick access is that it can also be used to search text within the help. For example, if I want to search something on search generic editor in the help, I can actually select this and it will open the generic editor content in the help. And the another feature in quick access is it also supports using wildcard characters. So you can use wildcard characters such as this in the quick access. Okay, let's move to views. So in the previous release, in the Neon release, we added the option to hide the window toolbar. In Oxygen, we have added the option to hide the status bar at the bottom. So this provides us more space for the editor and views. I will enable it as I would like to see the line number. Okay, so the next one is that we have the bookmarks view, the problems view, the task view. So for all the three views, there is a new filter button which is available in the toolbar. So earlier it was available only via the menu. So using this, you can directly open the filter dialog, and the filter dialog has been simplified, wherein you can choose show all items to show all the items in the view, or you can choose multiple configurations, and items matching any of these configurations will be shown in the view. Okay. Again, for all the three views, the bookmarks view, problems view, and task view, there is a new menu item to copy the details, where you can copy description or copy the resource qualified name to the clipboard. And also a new command has been added to copy the build ID information to the clipboard, and this can also be invoked from the quick access. So you can see what is the content. It also prints the OS version, prints the windowing system, prints the architecture. In case of GTK, it would also print the GTK version and the WebKit version. Okay, now let's move on to the preferences. The window title in Eclipse has been simplified. It just shows the name of the workspace, the full path of the file open in the editor, and the name of the product. And this can be configured or customized from the preferences. Here you can configure, you can provide an alias to the workspace name, you can choose to show perspective, full workspace path, and you can also choose to unselect or not show the product name. Okay, the next feature is when you switch to another workspace, either create a new workspace. If you are creating a new workspace, you are provided with an option to copy the preferences from this workspace to the new workspace. And if the workspace already exists, then you also get a warning message here saying that the target workspace exists and the values will be overwritten. Okay, now the other default which has changed is now all the long-running operations will always run in the background by default, and if you would like to change this so that you can see the progress bar for long-running operations, you can disable this in the preferences. Also in GTK, the left and the right arrow keys can now be used to minimize, to collapse and expand the tree items like on other platforms. Earlier, this was not supported in GTK, and only the plus and minus keys could be used for this. Okay, so now let's move on to the Java development tools or JDT features. First, I would like to talk about the editor, the Java editor. So we first switch So Eclipse Oxygen now allows us to open the implementation of types. So command hover or control hover in other platforms would provide the hyperlink to open implementation for types, for class, and you can also open the implementation of an interface. Earlier this was available only for methods. The preference to automatically insert braces at the correct position has been enabled by default. Example, in this case, if I want to insert the brace, I can just insert it here and it will be automatically inserted at the correct position. And also the preference to escape the characters when pasting into a string literal has also been enabled by default. So for example, this string has some special characters like double quotes, and when I paste it into the string literal, it will be escaped by default. This option has been enabled by default in Oxygen. You can say these have been escaped. Okay, so in Java 8 type annotations, the rules of placement of these type annotations are sometimes confusing or surprising to users. For example, here I have added a type annotation, but I get an error saying that the annotation is illegally placed and it must directly precede the simple name of the type they are meant to affect. So I can use the quick fix, which is available here, to move the type annotation, and this places the annotation in the correct position. Also for type annotations, if the element has some default values, the default values are visible in the Java.doc hover and in the Java.doc view. So in this case, the default value for this type annotation is available in the Java.doc hover. The background and the foreground color of the Java.doc view and also in the Java.doc hover can now be modified in the preferences. Here you have the option to set the background color and the text color for the Java.doc. Okay, so we are done with the editor features. Let's move to the Java views and dialogs. So here there are some inputs which are missing. So I invoke the organize inputs dialog, and you can see a new skip button has been added in this dialog to skip a particular input. So I choose to skip this input and finish. So the import for menu item has not been added. Okay. So the quick outline view, that is command O or control O, it lists all the elements of a type, and when you press command O again, it also lists the inherited members. So let me first remove the filters which have been added. Okay, so by default, it would also show the members which have been inherited from Java Lang object. So now an option is available to filter these inherited members from Java Lang object. So you can choose filter the inherited members from Java Lang object. So now the quick outline view shows only the members which are inherited, but doesn't show the members which are inherited from Java Lang object. Okay, another new filter has been added to hide the deprecated members and deprecated member fields and functions. Go to filters, and here you have the option to filter the deprecated fields and methods. And this filter is available in the quick outline view. It's also available in the outline view, in the members view, So here it is available in the outline view. It's also available in the members view and in Package Explorer. Okay, so by default, the Java search results shown in the search view are now grouped by project. Earlier, they were grouped by package, and this can be changed by choosing the appropriate icon in the toolbar. So let's go to the JUnit view. So let me run the JUnit test here. And the JUnit have failed, and there is a button available here to show these stack trace in the console view. So I can look at the stack trace in the console view. It's especially useful when the stack trace is wide and long. Also, if you want to copy parts of the stack trace, and if you want to quickly switch or jump to the class using the hyperlinks. Okay, so done with the views and dialogs. Let's move to the Java compiler and formatter features. So in Eclipse Oxygen, a new experimental Java index has been added, and it is disabled by default. Let me open the preference page. And if you wish to enable it, there is a preference to enable it. Okay, so the new Java, you can try out the new Java index to see performance improvements in type hierarchy view in case you have large number of jar dependencies. And the new Java index actually creates a new index file which is separate from the classic index file to capture the semantic information, and which means that it would consume more memory and a disk space. So there is a rebuild index button which is provided, which will delete both the index files, the new index file and the classic index file, and rebuild them from scratch. And in case the new Java index is not enabled, then it will rebuild only the classic index file. And this button can be used in case you find or you think that the index files have been corrupted and
So I believe we just lost Lakshmi's audio. So let me just see if I can get her back. Lakshmi, can you hear me? Your audio seems to have disconnected and your screen is frozen. Lakshmi, are you there? Alrighty. Sorry about that, folks. We will try to get this fixed for you more momentarily. She just joined the call again.
Which is an instance of type short and using it in remove.
Sorry, Lakshmi, we just lost you there for a moment. So I think we may have lost perhaps a slide or two, about a minute of your talking through the presentation.
Okay, can you tell me, do you remember what was the last one?
I think I would go back about 3 slides. So you disconnected about a minute or two ago.
Oh, okay.
So I think we'll just, if you go back about 3 slides, that should be good.
Okay, so
And
let me start from Java Development Tools again.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
And go ahead and present your screen for us.
Okay, just a second. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
All right, back over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so back to Java Development Tools. So first, let me go to the what's new in the Java editor. Okay, so the open implementation command is now available for types in starting from Oxygen. So you can use command hover to get the hyperlink to open the implementation for a class or open the implementation for the interface. Earlier, this option was available only for methods. The preference to automatically insert the brace at the correct position has been enabled by default. So, for example, I want to insert a brace at the end of the line. I can just insert it here and it will automatically insert it at the end of the line. Also, the preference to escape these special characters then paste it into a string literal has been enabled by default. For example, if I paste this, I already showed this, but I will do it again. Okay, so this string has special character, that is double quotes, which has to be escaped. So when I paste it into the string literal, you can see that it is automatically escaped. This preference is also enabled by default. Okay, so just did these. So let's undo what I did already. Okay, so for type annotations, the rules of placement of the Java 8 type annotations are sometimes confusing or surprising. For example, in this case, I have added a type annotation, but I still get an error saying illegally placed annotation, and the type annotation has to be placed, must directly precede the simple name of the type. So I use the quick fix to move the type annotation to the correct position. For type annotations, which have elements with default values, the default value can now be seen in the Java doc view and in the Java doc hover. Also, for the Java doc view and the Java doc hover, a new preference is available to set the background and foreground color of the text. So the Java text color and the Java background color can be set from the preferences. Okay, that's about editors. Now let's move to Java views and dialogs. So if you see this particular class, we have some missing imports. Let me remove. Okay, we have a couple of missing imports. So invoke the open the organize imports dialog. You can see a new skip button has been added to skip a particular import. So I choose to skip this and finish. You can see that the import for menu item has not been added. Okay. The quick outline view, which is Control O or Command O on Mac, shows the member fields and functions. When you press Ctrl O again, you also can see the inherited members. Let me remove the filters which I added. Okay. So by default, it would also show the members which have been inherited from Java-Lang object. So now new filter is available to hide the inherited members from Java-Lang object. So you can see the members inherited from Java-Lang object have been hidden, while the other inherited members are still visible. Also in the quick outline view, we have another filter to hide deprecated fields and methods. So we have the deprecated fields and methods which will be hidden now, and this filter is also available in the members view, in the outline view, and in the package explorer. Okay, let me open the search view. So the Java search results are now by default grouped by project. Earlier they were grouped by package, and this can be switched from the toolbar. Let me also open the JUnit view as we have already done the test. So in the JUnit view, we have a new button which has been added to show the stack trace in the console view. So showing the stack trace in console view is useful, especially when you have when the stack trace is long and wide, and also if you want to copy parts of the stack trace, and also to quickly jump to the class using the hyperlinks. Okay, let's move on to the Java compiler and formatter. A new experimental Java index has been added, which is disabled by default, and there is a preference to enable it. You can try out the new Java index to see performance improvements in type hierarchy view in case you have a large number of jar dependencies. The new Java indexing, it uses a new index file to capture the semantic information and hence would consume more memory and disk space. So the rebuild index button has been provided, which will delete both the new index file and the classic index file and, and rebuild them from scratch. And in case the enable new Java index is, if the new Java index is not enabled, then it will delete both the files but rebuild only the classic index file, hence saving the disk space. Okay. So there are certain uses of Java collections that pass the compiler's type check, but there are still type errors or user errors and can result in wrong runtime behavior. For example, in this case, I have a warning which says unlikely argument type. Unlikely argument type int for remove object on a collection of short. So which basically means that here I am creating, it's basically saying that there could be a mismatch in the argument type. Let us look closely and see what is the problem. Here we are creating a set of box type short and we add a short element, but while removing we use an int. Okay, and this passes the compiler's type check because remove accepts an object. But this is caught by the new analysis which is available in the Eclipse compiler, and it is flagged off as a warning. Similarly, we have a check which is offered for unlikely invocations of the equals method. For example, in this case, an info message is provided saying unlikely argument type for equals. Here we have a string, and in this case, in this side, we have an object of type name. And this can be configured. This severity of the problem can be configured from the preference page here. Okay, I have to also cover the formatter change, and a new option has been added in the code formatter profile editor, which allows the comment width to be counted starting from the starting position of the comment rather than the starting position of the line. So let's open the formatter. So here we have the checkbox, which is enabled by default to count the comment width from the comment starting position. So here this applies to all types of comments. Let me apply the formatting, and you can see that the comment has correctly formatted here, and this is especially useful when you want to add comments within heavily indented blocks of code, or you want to add line comments at the end of the line. Okay. Now moving on to debug features. So here again we have platform debug features, features which are available for whole of the platform. Let me change my working set. Okay, so a new launch group configuration type has been added in the launch configuration, which allows multiple launch configurations to be launched sequentially and also configure post-launch actions. And this feature has been adopted from CDT but has more additional features. For example, here we have a launch group which has been created, and these are the launch configurations and the action post-launch actions. So when you run this particular launch group, these launch configurations are okay. First, let me open the debug view. So you can see the launch group has launched. It first launches this and waits until it's terminated. Then it launches the next application and then waits for the output and then launches the JUnit launch configuration. Okay. Then we have the terminate and relaunch can be enabled here. For example, let me first launch this snippet. Okay, so now if I want to enable terminate and relaunch, I have to press shift while I launch this again. This terminates the earlier launch and launches the application again. This preference can also be set from the preference page where you say terminate and relaunch while launching. This can be enabled here. Okay, in the breakpoints view, now you have an option to sort the breakpoints by creation time. Earlier you could sort it only by name. Also the breakpoints are okay. The breakpoints are now visible in the overview ruler, and also right click on the breakpoint in the overview ruler and you have the preferences page which opens and you can configure multiple things from here. Okay, let's move to the JDT debug features. So while debugging, the return value of the last method which returned is shown in the variables view. So let me debug. As Java application, you can see while debugging, the last return. So here you can see that the return value of the last return method is shown in the variables view. Okay, Eclipse Oxygen has something new called as the trigger point. A trigger point can be added, which will, let me first show you this. Okay, so a trigger point can be added which will suppress all the other breakpoints until it is hit. For example, if I mark this breakpoint as a trigger point, you can see that it gets an overlay T, and all the other breakpoints have an overlay T and a cut, which shows that they have been suppressed by this trigger point. So let me start debugging. And as soon as the trigger point is hit, the trigger point is disabled and all the other breakpoints which are suppressed by it are now enabled. And once the run is completed, the trigger point gets enabled again. Just like we can have conditional breakpoints, we also have conditional watch point. For example, here I have a watch point. Just a view. Okay, this is a conditional watch point where the old value of the field can be used in the condition. So let's debug this and see whether it hits the conditional watch point. Here you can see that the conditional watch point has suspended the execution because the value of n is 0. A new command to toggle the trace point has been added. Here you can see toggle trace point. A trace point is nothing but a conditional breakpoint which also prints the name of the class and the method. Okay, and also you can see there is no statement saying return false, because by default the conditional breakpoint will return false if the condition does not evaluate to a boolean. So return false is implicit and doesn't have to be specified explicitly. Okay, and the variables view, let me debug this. The variables view shows logical structure by default. For example, for collections, now directly will list the values of the elements instead of the internal structure. And this can be toggled from the toolbar. Okay, so we're done with debug. Let's move on to PD. So let me switch quickly to the okay. Okay, so in PDE, a new layout spy tool is available. to debug the SWT layouts, it can be invoked using the command Alt-Shift-F9 option. Let me first open the preference dialog so that I have something which you can use for debugging, and then press Command Option Shift F9. This opens the layouts by. The layouts by, you can select the control using the layouts by. For example, let us select this. Okay, and this lists, or excuse me, this lists the children. It lists the layout which is used for this particular composite, and here you can see also lists other useful information for debugging. For example, you have get bounds, you have compute size, and show overlay will actually show the overlay for the selected control for the parent. So open child opens the child. You can use this to move up the parent. Okay. So PDE category editor now supports nested categories. So the features can be now viewed in a hierarchy, and this category, nested category definition can also be used when you're exporting the feature, and it is also visible in the install dialog. So let me just show you in the install dialog. You can see the nested categories. Okay, so now that the install dialog is open, another feature of the install dialog is that it's no longer modal. So while the install dialog is open and is trying to get the categories, fetching the categories, I can switch to the Eclipse and do something. And also the install dialog would show the progress bar within the dialog while it is trying to fetch the features. Okay, the feature editor, the PDE feature editor now has an option to manage the versions for the included features. Earlier, this was available only for included plugins. Here you can say copy the versions from the feature manifest. You can see it has copied the version from the feature manifest. Okay, let me do this. You can see here there are some imports which are missing, and we have some error messages. It says circle cannot be resolved to a type. Let me use the quick fix. So here the quick fix provides me an option to add shapes to the imported package or to add this particular project to the required bundles. Selecting the quick fix also adds the import statement. You can add this. Okay, now the last point in the this would be while you're creating a new launch configuration. Let's create a new launch configuration. The option to validate plugins automatically prior to launching has been enabled by default. Okay, so now let's quickly move to the API tools. So before I show you the API tool features, this baseline project has been exported and added as a baseline to this Eclipse. So you can see that I've already added this project as a baseline, and it has the execution environment as 1.7. So now, if I change the execution environment, API tools will now report it as an error and says the minor version has to be incremented. Use control 1, which is the command 1, which is the quick fix, gives me multiple solutions. Either I can correct the minor version or I can configure the problem severity. Okay, let me undo this change. The API tools now reports the addition of a default method to an API interface as a breaking change. So here it says that a default method has been added in this interface. Your quick fix now has an option which explains the incompatibility and also option to configure the problem severity. A field addition to a class, an API class, is also now reported as a breaking change. You can see that it's complained, the API tools complains that the field has been added to the class, and again we have the option to configure the problem severity, and this API compatibility page has a link to a wiki which talks about achieving API binary compatibility and also has the option to configure the severity of this problem. Okay, and the add no implement and add no extend tags are now processed by API leak analysis. So for example, we have my interface which is marked as add no implement. That is, this interface is not intended to be implemented by clients, and main class implements it. So there is a warning which says that it implements a non-API interface. The problem in this case would be that if my interface adds a new method, then it would result in compiler error. Similarly, for add no extend, if a class extends a class marked as no extend, then we get an error saying that the main class leaks types by allowing it to extend my class. Again, this problem can be configured using the preference page. Okay, so PDE in Oxygen supports DS annotation version 1.3, and for more information on the PDE support for DS annotations, a wiki page is available with all the information, and this support can be enabled from the preferences. The DS annotations preference page. Okay, so I covered all the components. Now moving on to some general improvements in Eclipse Oxygen. So we have improved Hi-DPI support. So Hi-DPI support was introduced in Mars. There was improved support in Neon, and in Oxygen, the Hi-DPI support has been improved further. All the icons in platform JDT PD have now been replaced with high resolution icons have been provided so that they look crisp on high resolution monitors, and there are other Hi-DPI improvements as well. Do try them out. There is improved dark theme support in Oxygen. There are a lot of styling and color related improvements. Do try out the dark theme support in Oxygen as well. And Eclipse on Mac is now available as a DMG, that is an Apple disk image, just like other applications. Okay, so I would just like to mention that Eclipse Oxygen can be configured to work with the Java 9 preview. There is a wiki page which has been created to help you with the configuration, and also the Eclipse Java 9 support for Oxygen is available in the Eclipse Marketplace. You can try it out. And all the new and noteworthy items of 4.7, including the new APIs which have been added, are available in the Eclipse News 4.7. link, you can go through it and find all the new and noteworthy items. So that's it I had for the webinar. Thanks for joining. Kat, I'm done with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi. That was a great presentation and we really appreciate it. So I'm just going to give us a few minutes to go through a Q&A. Let me just, do you mind just closing out your screen share, please? And thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just going to check to see if we have any questions. Bear with me one moment. Okay, so there don't seem to be any outstanding questions. So if you don't get the chance to ask a question while we're live, we can answer those questions in the comments through the YouTube video. So be sure to send us any questions you have either on YouTube or you can email marketing@eclipse.org. A quick reminder, tomorrow we will have our 5th Eclipse Oxygen webinar, which will be taking place Wednesday, June 28th at 11 a.m. So tomorrow is the day of the Eclipse Oxygen release. And that presentation will be on generic editor and language server protocol with Sopot Sila and Mikhail Istria, both of which are from Red Hat and very involved in our community. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and join the virtual Eclipse community meetup for more community-driven content. We hope you enjoyed this session and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.